I've told you before that a minister friend of mine was preaching his first sermon in his new church. And he was so excited, he leapt up into the pulpit and with great gusto said, "Good morning." And as he said that, his front tooth, which was a cap, flew out of his mouth, bounced along the floor, and rolled under the first pew. This was a big moment for him. He had to just keep going forward and keep preaching. But his sermon that day was on faith. And it's hard to say faith without a front tooth. So during this sermon, he had to keep coming up with synonyms. He had to activate his mind and try to come up with other words that he could say and speak to the same truth, like hope and love and peace. And he told me after that sermon, it was the best sermon he ever gave. So today, I want to preach to you without a front tooth. I want to try to find synonyms or analogs or new ways about talking about the Christian faith. But I don't want to use the classic words like salvation and belief and faith and mercy and sin. And I want to speak in a different way. I want to tell you 5 reasons I'm a Christian. But without a front tooth. I want it to sound a little different than you're used to hearing. Number 1, I am Christian because I always sensed that there was something more. Just by natural inclination, I had a sensibility that the physical world and what we see, that there's something more. There is a spiritual realm. I just always had that sense. And it is the Christian faith that in a most glorious fashion is trying to draw your attention to the something more. And when I became a Christian and began to explore the depth of the Christian concept of God, it made that spiritual realm present and palpable. You may not realize how sublime the Christian concept of God is. Even from the earliest church fathers, it's a highly sophisticated spiritual concept. I know when I say God in English, it sounds like I'm talking about some object in the universe. Like I'm talking about some dude sitting over there, God. Or like Zeus on Mount Olympus, an object in the universe. But the earliest Christians knew full well that God was infinite. Oh, right away they ascribed that quality to the divine. God is infinite. So God can't be an object in the universe. God is infinite. God can't be a thing alongside other things because God is infinite. God can't be a being alongside other beings because God is infinite. They knew you can't so much say that God is a being, but God is being itself. God is infinite. God is not an object in the universe. The universe is within the mind of God. Did you hear me? You should get a goosebump because that makes all of reality spiritual. God is not an object in the universe. The universe is within the mind of God. God is the infinite consciousness. As a Christian, the spiritual realm becomes the essence of reality itself. I think it was Teilhard de Chardin that said, "You are not a physical being having a spiritual experience. You are a spiritual being having a physical experience. And when Christians say God is not an object in the universe, you too are not merely a thing alongside other things. You're a soul. You are a soul that has been created by the infinite consciousness. It's within God that all souls live, move, and have their being. There's not so much a physical realm and a spiritual realm. It's spirit all the way down. And the Christian faith opens me to that reality, and everything becomes transparent to transcendence. Number 2, I am Christian because I need some collective effervescence in my life. Well, let me explain. Max Weber, the great sociologist, was trying to discover what is the origin of religion itself. And he went back in our evolutionary history and imagined, say when we were hunter-gatherers, that every day is filled with survival tasks. It's actually relentlessly grinding. You have to find food that day. You have to develop clothing and shelter, and it's task after task, and it's a survival effort, but it's also really mundane. You're caught up in the banal every day. You just got to take care of the next thing. But he said once in a while, the tribe would come together. They would come together around maybe a fire, and they would begin to dance and drum and tell stories and sing. And they would get caught up in what he called a collective effervescence, when the mundane and the routinized is set aside and you are transported. You are elevated and animated. Collective effervescence. He said this is where the origin of religion resides, in this sizzle of being together. I know a lot of people say they're spiritual but not religious. I get that, but I worry that then being spiritual could be so privatized and lonely. Hey, I do a lot of spirituality alone, I get it. But if that's all, it becomes so isolated, and you might miss collective effervescence. Now, you can get collective effervescence at a Huskers game, too. But here's the difference. Oh, you can get it at a football game. You can get it in a Plymouth choir concert. You'll get some collective effervescence. But the difference is that sizzle at football, it's awesome. But it's not around the most profound things. Hey, I love football. I love football. But it's not around the most profound things in life. Religion, when we gather and create a collective effervescence around what really matters and the deepest core values of life, that is awesome. And I pray you have some collective effervescence in your life. I'm trying to speak without a front tooth in ways you might not be used to hearing. So number 3, I am a Christian because I want life to be fair. And I have sort of an immediate apprehension that the world's not fair. And I want to be part of a movement. I want to be part of a community that is striving to make the world more fair. Now, I'm not going to use any of the really hip words like equity or social justice. I'm just talking about the basic awareness that the world is not as fair as it should be. I need to be part of a community striving to build the kingdom, to make things more fair. You know, Warren Buffett talks about the ovarian lottery. Have you heard this? They'll talk about, oh, it's amazing how successful you are and all you've done. And he'll go, no, I just won the ovarian lottery. He was born into good circumstance, he says. Well, there is this lottery that seems wildly unfair. People that are born into a circumstance where there's support, maybe family, there's resources, it's safe. It's just a lottery. You might have been born into that or not. And that seems unfair. And if there's ever a time that I want to rail to God, like the Psalms will speak in anger, God, why is this so? It's that. Why are some people just lucky? I was born lucky. I was born on third base. But why is it in the world some people aren't? In grueling circumstance they're born. What chance do they have? See, because then what happens? People born lucky like me, we kind of all collude to create systems to make sure I stay lucky. And then systems become unfair. I want the world to be more fair. And I want to work together as Christians. I'm trying to speak without a front tooth in ways that might sound different to you. Number 4, the reason I'm a Christian is because I need to be less self-centered. I'm just naturally self-centered. Every human being at some level is just naturally self-centered. I need something to pull me out just a little bit out of myself. It's natural to be self-centered. I mean, I'm seeing everything through Jim's eyes. Like I'm doing Jim all day long. It's pretty self-centered. I'm hoping Jim is doing well. I'm doing lots of things to make sure Jim is doing well. This is a big project. How's Jim feeling right now? I don't know. How am I feeling? It's a massive project. And it can just devolve into complete self-involvement and solipsism, and I'm shackled into myself. But I noticed in life, the moments I forget myself, those are the moments of joy. Those moments. And so I'm Christian because the whole Christian faith is like this designed system to pull you a little bit out of yourself, to sense that there is God and there are our brothers and sisters. We follow the man who lived for others. The whole Christian faith and its stories and morals and rituals is trying to pull you a little bit out of self-centeredness. Every time you see the word sin in the Bible or you hear ministers talk about sin, just transpose it into the phrase self-centeredness. That's what it's really talking about. All fall short of the glory of God. All are self-centered. But then, this is why I'm Christian. Together in moments, I get beyond myself. That's joy. Trying to talk without a front tooth in some way that might sound different. Number 5, I'm Christian because I have this aggression within me. I'm fairly aggressive. Now, actually, in this life, in this society, it pays off to be a little bit aggressive. I'll just kind of be aggressive about what I think and where I want to go. And that aggression, though, it works well in a society that values coercion and some level of domination. You just plow forward. But that aggression could move into levels of violence. And we lionize violence and think that it can fix problems and solve things. But I'm Christian because it teaches another way. Our gospel is the most full-bodied, full-throttled expression of nonviolence ever. Our gospel. There is nothing like it. The story of perfect nonviolence. It tells you a story of a person who would never physically hurt someone. Ever. It tells you a story of a person that would rather die than hurt somebody else. He would not even self-protect. I know we think if there's ever a time you can use violence, it's to self-defend. I know I would self-defend. Oh, I know I would. But we have this story that is amazing. It's a story like no other. Let me tell you how. In first century Palestine, if you were going to learn to write in Greek, there was a way you did that. You would sit there and copy Homer. That's how you learn to write in Greek. Our New Testament Gospels are written in Greek. So they were learning to write Greek by copying Homer, the story of the Homeric epics like Ulysses and Odysseus and Achilles. And so that story of the hero was deep in their bones. And then it was time for them to tell us a story of their hero, Jesus, their Lord and Savior. The Gospels are basically telling a story of their hero. And they follow the Homeric template almost perfectly. Even scenes out of Homer, like peril at sea and various things that happen in the Gospel, happen in Homer. And they follow the heroic code of Homer. Here's the heroic code. The hero in Homer must be able to stride into a public forum and expound with wisdom, hold forth. The hero in Homer treats everyone equally. Whether it's a king or a pauper, the hero treats people with dignity. The hero in Homer, you might not remember this, does miracles and heals others and teaches ethics and battles supernatural foes. It's clear in our gospel they're telling the story of their hero, Jesus. But one thing is left out. The key aspect of the heroic code. And if people ask me, is the gospel divinely inspired right here? I go, yeah. Because we've never told this story. This is a God thing. Because they leave one thing out. In Homer, and this is the ultimate definition of the hero, in Homer, at some point, the hero physically vanquishes a foe. That is a key part to how we understand being a hero. At some point, the good person's going to pop the bad guy in the face. That's how we imagine heroism. And we tell that story again and again ad nauseum to ourselves. Every novel, every movie you watch, every story we retell, TV episodes, it's all about sooner or later the good guy wipes out the bad guy because we think violence solves problems. We do. We think violence will save us. Violence can save us. Good can finally triumph through violence. It's redemptive. It's the only way to... The gospel offers something completely different. A perfect nonviolence. And I'm Christian because I want to draw close to that and soothe the aggression that is within me and live more gently. I want to somehow understand violence will fix nothing. We keep telling ourselves it will, it won't. There's another way. He is our way. That's why I'm Christian. And I was trying to speak without a front tooth in a different way so that you can be thinking about why you're Christian. And then together, we will walk with Him.